Are you a manager who is eager to change the trajectory of your career? I have spent the last 23 years as a Fortune 50 leader learning from other industry leaders how to break free from limiting beliefs and habits. On the Might in Motion podcast, we focus on the 4 M's: motivation, momentum, mindfulness, and might. We bring you leaders from Fortune companies, doctors, and entrepreneurs. Their stories of living their own might in motion will inspire you to create your own action plan and achieve your goals. Welcome to Might in Motion. Today, we welcome Liz Solar. She is a voice actor and genuine storyteller. She's based out of Boston, Massachusetts, and is the signature voice of numerous national and global corporate brands. Warm, savvy, and relatable, her voice is featured on projects for USAA, Hilton Hotels, BMW, Fidelity, Kraft Foods, Aetna Health, and PBS. Liz specializes in narration for corporate videos, audiobooks, e-learning, web explainers, and commercials. She writes for the web and advertising and is a contributor to the writer's blog Acts of Revision. Liz created and hosted the podcast Embark and is developing a new podcast being released soon. Welcome to Might in Motion. I am so excited, Liz, to have you on today.
I am too. Thank you so much, Mariana. We spoke about this a little earlier too, and I think it was about 8 weeks ago. It felt so far into the future, and now I feel like, oh, it's going to be over, and
I know.
blah
I
blah.
know. Isn't it crazy how fast time moves? It just is amazing to me.
Well, I keep thinking too, because there's a lot behind me now, so it goes by even faster. It feels like it does, like summer vacation used to feel like, oh, it's the longest time of the year, and I'm just gonna stare up at the sky, and then go on the swings and go on my bike, and it felt like forever, and it doesn't have the same type of feel anymore. It just really is fleeting
Yes.
and really gives, we had spoken about gratitude, and I'm just going to say something. I'm going to bring something up here. I feel like the Barbie movie. Do you ever think about death? Um,
Yes.
yeah, so, hello. My name is Liz, and I'm here to spread cheer. Um, there was one day my husband and I were out on the deck, and it's a lovely summer day, and the birds are chirping, and the dog's running around, and it's lovely. The pond is sparkling. And I said to him, I was thinking someday all of this is going to be going on around us, but I won't be here. And it
Mm,
was the first time it really came out of my mouth, and I acknowledged, "Oh, yeah, this does have an expiration date." I don't know what that means beyond the expiration date,
yeah.
hopefully, I don't go sour or something, but, maybe something really good happens after that, but whatever it is, it kind of put a lot of things in perspective in terms of living in the now, and, most of the time, we don't do that. I mean, I don't always do that. I'm always thinking about, "Ooh, that thing I burped my wine at the dinner party," or, "What's gonna happen tomorrow?" Am I gonna be able to, get a new client? So it's always thinking about yesterday, thinking about tomorrow, but not really living in the now, and I'm really making a conscious effort to do that.
How do you tie that in with gratitude?
Because I think that I there's a lot to be grateful for to be here now. I could have been born during medieval times.
Mm-hmm.
I could be born in the poorest ghettos of India, poor, begging on the streets. Um, I could be in a body that doesn't function
Mm-hmm.
in the way that it does. So, there are all these things that like we talked about this too, "Oh, my thighs," it's like, no, that it really doesn't matter.
Right.
What really matters is we have these bodies, and we have, I
Mhm.
think, pretty good lives, and there's a lot there to be grateful for, and we have the capacity, we have the luxury right now to have this conversation.
Right. Which is amazing. And
Really, it is.
like there's connection and gratitude. We talked about in the past about that's the community, that's the commodity of the future. It's these opportunities for you and I to connect Whereas
Mhm.
4 months ago, we didn't even know each other existed, right? We were in different ends of the Eastern seaboard, right? Like physically, we're in two different types of careers. You're in that more creative space. I'm in more of that science, technology space. Yet our paths have crossed. And now there's an opportunity that I'm grateful for this connection that I think as we continue to move forward in this day and age, it becomes more and more relevant on how do you stay connected with the people that you impact the most.
Absolutely, and the other thing I was thinking about when you were talking about the gratitude and meeting people and having a certain amount of gratitude for meeting people that you never would have, and that really that really got jump started during COVID because I met many people just this way that live in different parts of the world, and there's something really exhilarating about making connections in different places and learning about people because otherwise I live in the Northeast. I live in a blue state. We have a lot of colleges. We're looked at a certain way. I mean, I'm from Massachusetts. We are the freaks of the United States. We kind of always march to a different beat, right? So it gives me a chance to understand someone else's lived
Mhm.
experience. And that goes a long way because tied in with all of this is just the dismal way that we communicate or do not communicate with each other over the last, I don't know, I think it's even more than 10 years, but we
Yes.
don't listen to each other with the intent to understand somebody or
Mhm.
to learn something new. And I really feel like it's a bonus to be able to find people who are not like me, don't live in the same neighborhood, and have a different worldview. It's like, "Oh, okay. I did not know that. That's cool." Yeah.
I love that. And as a manager of teams, and a remote team, so I'm in a function where our entire organization is remote. You have to purposely seek out those opportunities for connection. You have to be very. It's not like you're just going to walk by somebody down the hallway or at the water cooler, right? You have to be very purposeful and thoughtful on that connection. And I love how finding people not like yourself is relevant in your personal life, but also in your professional life, because it's going to open up opportunities that maybe you would never have considered.
It sure does, and, when we first met, I think you were just about to start a
Mm,
a new job, a new career, really, um,
right.
and there's something that, it's being in I've had a similar type of experience lately. I love what I'm doing, but I keep thinking, "I wanna do more. I want to be part of a bigger piece of the world, a more impactful piece of the world, and how do I do that?" And I have a friend who has mentored me a little bit, and I said, I want to do something, but I don't know what it is."
Mm.
And she said, "Can you be comfortable living in the I don't know?"
Oh, that's powerful. Wow.
It's like, "I don't know, but I'm going to try." And there is something about not knowing. We tell our kids, and my kids are older than yours now, but, it's sometimes really great to not know where you're going,
Yes.
and then you have, like, you have a buffet.
Yes.
Instead of like, "Okay, you can only have these 3 courses and then you're done." There's so much to, take in and kind of find like, "Oh, it really doesn't matter whether I'm seeking something on a professional level or I just am sort of doing this as a hobbyist." It's
Mm-hmm.
it's another skill or another thing that I'm looking at that then starts to, um, yeah, click.
Yeah.
Something sort of, I don't know, just reacts in your brain that says, "Oh, I like that, and I'd like to do more of it."
Yes. I think that's phenomenal. The unknown, and I've is so key in my career. I have pivoted multiple times, even if the majority of that time was with one big organization. I would pivot from one area of the business into something I knew nothing about, and there was that excitement. There was that like, oh, what? And then you just figure out what can you bring with you. There's skills that you bring with you, and then now you have this whole opportunity to learn so much more. I love that. Can you be comfortable in the I don't know? Like that is so huge. You kind of. briefly, you talked about listening a moment ago,
Mhm.
and I mean, you're obviously known for your voice, and but if you really want you when we talked last time as well, we talked a little bit about how do you truly capture someone's attention, and you said to listen.
Mm. Yeah, we all, it's the thing that we keep saying and sometimes don't really pay attention to because we all wanna be seen, we all
Mhm,
wanna be heard,
mhm,
we all wanna be understood, but we don't always reciprocate that. And if I may, take a moment to just say social media has put so many people on transmit, offering things, but what are they offering? Sometimes they're just offering, "Look at me."
mm,
And it's not, centered on another person, and we've really become kind of selfish. It's part of our culture. We are an individualist, hearty American, go for it, and there's, like, really wonderful things about that, but it does have its limitations, and we tend to, uh gloss over other people's concerns or what
mhm,
they are really interested in, and there's nothing what is the sound of somebody's name is the most beautiful
yes,
sound somebody can hear, and if
yes,
you start with, "Mariana, I wanna tell you something that I think you would really like or would be of interest to you," and then actually fulfill that promise,
mhm,
that's a really
mhm,
powerful thing to do rather than I think we've become kind of show-offy in terms of, "I can do this for you, and I can do that for you." It's like, well, like, show me how, tell me how, because I think sometimes it becomes self-serving, and it's more
yeah,
about my accomplishments rather than what I have to offer or share with you.
yeah, that's right. It's that listening piece. It applies so much no matter what industry you're in. If you're creative, if you're providing a service, or if you're in a business scenario at a meeting, what's the word thing I used to hate the most is I say an idea and then 5 minutes later somebody repeats my exact same idea and they get the kudos. Right? You're just like, "Arr, you weren't listening to what I said, what I was saying a moment ago, and being able to help others tune in as a leader, like purposely being able to help others hear what somebody else is saying is also, I think, critical. You really play a part in that.
That's a really interesting point that you just brought up because if you announce something, "Hey, I have this idea. I'd like to share it with you." Time goes by and then someone picks it up. Have they internalized that and are just repeating it? Maybe they didn't really hear it. Maybe they really
Mm,
weren't listening, but it kind of got into their like that little earworm, and so they
yes.
brought it out. And what is it that makes somebody else respond to that
Mm.
in that moment? And this is going to sound a little bit sexist. Is it a man who repeated that and got listened to? Um, because there
The
still
title
is
could
a
be a
little bit of
title,
that.
right?
Right.
Yep.
Is it somebody who is in a, better position of authority or higher position of authority? And how do we reclaim that? And I
Mhm.
guess one of the questions I have is when somebody usurps an idea, how do we get that back? Or are we just at the mercy of, well, everybody responded to it the second time, so I guess I'm just gonna skulk off
Mm.
and head into a corner and cry.
Which is not helpful, really. So
S a good
sometimes.
cry is once in a while, but it's really not how I want to deal with the workplace.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But I do love that whole the listening piece, and when you can resonate back or reflect back, especially in your relationships. I do this with my husband, right? Like with my kids. When you can reflect back what somebody says, A, it helps you figure out whether or not you actually clearly understand what their issue is or what they're trying to say. And B, it helps them, wow, she really cares or he really cares about what I'm bringing to the table.
Yeah, and sometimes just repeating back what someone says, especially when it's a client and they're
Yeah.
saying something and they're having a hard time really putting that idea together. And if you're really perceptive and really listening to them, you can say something like, "Hey, I hear that you're saying this, or you're dissatisfied with this idea right now, or this isn't where you see yourself, and it sounds like you have aspirations for X.
Yeah.
Does that track? Does that sound correct? And that way you can also give them a chance to say, "No, you really do have it wrong." Because I don't wanna go in like, uh, I have all the answers, but I do wanna go in with some sense of, "Hey, we're on the same team, and I want what you want, but I don't want you to hurt yourself in the
Yes.
meantime." And I wanna tie this into something a little bigger. I'm not sure whether I told you this. A little over a year ago, I did a thing, as they say. I went back to school, so I am now a student for the master's in mental health counseling,
Love it.
and listening is everything.
Yeah.
It's everything because I think we want to, and it's all with good intentions,
Mm-hmm.
particularly when someone has a problem, whether it's a client or a friend, that we want to fix it. We
Mm-hmm.
wanna be the one to go in there and save the day, and, it goes from helping to controlling, which
Right.
is something that I learned in school.
Are are you gonna tie that the learnings that you're doing now to the new podcasts? And I know we talked about the theme is really helping creatives and breaking through. Is
Yeah.
What's the tie there? I'd love to know more about the new podcast that's coming and what your vision is.
Well, because everything that we do in life, right, it requires change.
Mm.
We can't
Mhm.
really be static, and I think that what mental health counselors or mental health, uh what it encounters most of the time are people who are in some kind of a crisis. Sometimes it's a small crisis, sometimes it's a really traumatic situation, whether somebody is coming back from, the military and they've seen
Yep.
really horrible things in war, or they were in a terrible car accident, or they had a life-changing, physical issue. So, but all of that really requires us to have a certain amount of resilience,
Mhm.
to be open to change and open to possibilities, and to have, I think, um, an exceptional amount of hope. Because I think with hope, nothing really does change. "Oh, well, this is the way it is," and, it is, rather, cynical.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very difficult place to live in where people say, "I can't change anything," and, apropos to our earlier conversation, you know, we stay in jobs too long. We stay in relationships that no longer serve us, and I don't mean they have to give something to us of, monetary value, but or do we feel like the best version of ourselves
Right.
when we're in that relationship? Are we lifted? Do we feel that we can lift the other person up too? Are
Mhm.
things reciprocal? So, I feel like it's all tied together, and I really don't see the more people I meet, the more I live through this process of, extending my education, the more I feel like it's all the same. Like,
Mhm.
whether you're an engineer or a voice actor or, do visual arts or, work on a pottery wheel, it's all the same.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And that hope piece and having a capacity for hope. When you're in a situation like a work situation that you just don't like, a relationship, when once you get that reach that point where you don't have any hope for improvement or excitement or growth, I think that's typically when people leave. You'd asked me that question earlier in the green room, like, how do you know when it's time to go? And I think it's that hope piece.
Yeah, like nothing's gonna change here. Although there are people who do remain stuck in their
Mm,
fear, and I think as we become older, we feel like there aren't as many options, and that's borne out by, anecdotal evidence of it. I don't know what the, pure numbers are, but, I do know people in their 50s and early 60s having a very difficult time finding that new job and finding a career that will compensate them
mm,
monetarily at the same rate where they were before they left that bad situation. So they feel like, "Oh, I'm so close." I think you brought that up earlier. "I'm so close." I've been here so long. I've invested so much. And it becomes very difficult to say to somebody, "Oh, leave, you'll find something else and you'll be much happier," or, "That guy is kind of a jerk and you've been with him for 35 years, but, you know, guys are a dime a dozen and you'll figure out the financial piece after you split all your belongings and all your assets. No problem." So there are very real fears about that. And
Yes.
after a while, it's, what is it? The cost analysis of everything. Like, well, what doesn't feel worse? You know?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense to me, right? Like it's what you don't want to pick the lesser of two evils, but I was talking to somebody earlier this week about marriage there, and there's the statistic that people throw out. Oh, 50% of marriages end in divorce. Well, there's a different statistic that says 80% of people are still married to their first spouse. That's a very different way of looking at out of all the marriages, and you count up
Mhm.
all the marriages and you count up all the divorces, it's 50. But if most of those are in 20%, it's like, well, how much more hope do I have for my own relationship where I could be part of the 80%? No problem. You
Or
know,
or
it's hopeful.
or even if there's a job and something can be salvaged, it's like, what
Yes.
can be salvaged? Because and I've had ups and downs in my own marriage. I think that's life.
Yep.
We change and we don't change at the same rates in the same ways. And how do you deal with that? Unless you're
Mhm.
completely different people with, completely different values and a different direction, generally you can work it out. And in fact, some of the things that my husband and I used to fight about because he was one way and I was the other, we've kind of like crossed that bridge. So I'm a little bit more like him. He's a little bit more like me. It's,
Yeah.
we've rubbed off on each other, but we always think it's like it's always the job or it's always the other
Mhm.
person or, it's if he would just do this, then things would be better. And it's like, okay, what can I do? Like, say I'm just my own little you know, in my own little cocoon, what can I do that's going to make me happy, which makes me more attractive to that person?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
also like that's like negativity is contagious, but so is positivity as long as it's not that toxic, like, hello, it's so great here and everything's wonderful. And, those beautiful pink and blue clouds floating by are lovely. That's not realistic. But what are the things that we can control? And, at times in my life, I've, said that prayer, about being able to change the things that you can and
Yes.
sort of like accepting the things that you can't.
Yeah. Oh, that is so important. I say to people many times in the corporate space, control what you can control because you
That's
can't
right.
control everything. But if you can control what you can control, then you're in theory on the right path, you know? So,
Correct. And because I've had a very limited I work with corporations, but I've not worked in a corporation. So it's very, difficult to imagine, like, how does that look when you have this dynamic with many people that you interact with every day? I'm
right.
kind of I'm not in the series. I'm sort of that special guest star that comes in once or twice a week and, stays and does my lines, and then I walk out again. So I'm generally fairly well liked in that
Mhm.
capacity because I'm not around long enough to get on anybody's nerves.
That's awesome.
Right? But so what do you do in a corporate, when you talk about leadership, like, what are the ways that when you're interacting with people and it's a, diverse type of,
Right.
population that you're working with, like, how do you be able to treat people fairly, meet them where
Mhm.
they are, and give them either guidance or mentorship or even just civility some days when
Yeah.
people can be so trying.
That's good. You know, what I have done in the past actually goes right back to what we were talking about earlier, which is listening. So even if I have somebody on my team that their highest education level was high school,
Mm,
somebody else might have a PhD. Somebody else is, coming to the table with a very strong background in supply chain, the trucking industry, the ocean industry, whatever. Somebody else might be coming to the table with an IT background, right? Or one person might know store operations, another one might know this. When you listen to what they're saying, you can start really tuning into what motivates them, what gets them excited. Then you lean into that. I mean, if you think of a baseball coach, you don't want to put the person that is great as a catcher on third base, right? We talk a lot about in corporate space. Well, you need to rotate everybody so they can learn all these different skills. What if that's not their passion? What if that's not where they escalate? So, in my mind, a really good leader listens, tunes in, they observe, however you want to call it, so that you can really lean into that person's superpower. And when you do that, that's when like the magic happens for a team. If you can build a team where everybody has those superpowers that really work well together, it's phenomenal to see that work.
So you're a little bit of a therapist too, a little
We
bit
all,
of a psychologist. Well, because
yeah,
it is like I mean, whether you feel like, "Oh, I'm really using psychology to do this," mostly you are. I mean, it's and I hate to say it, it's like talking to your kids sometimes
yeah,
because it's that, "Oh, why did they get something that I didn't get? That's not fair." Or what I learned as a parent is that you think you have to treat them the same. And
mm-mm.
it's like you cannot because they're different people.
That's right, 100%.
They different
Different
interests,
motivators,
different
everything.
temperaments. Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. One
As it-
one you can't get a word out of, the other overshares. So
yes.
mhm.
Or I'll just say what my fifth grade teacher, Sister Teresa, used to tell me: "Life is not fair, little ducky."
Oh my god. Did you did you go to parochial school?
I had 12 years of Catholic school
Oh, hey, high five. Or
in Middle Georgia. So you're up in Massachusetts. I'm in like the
oh,
Bible Belt.
man.
We were
Yeah.
a little bit of the odd man out, but yeah, I mean, but it's like what she said. To this day, at 47, I will forever be grateful for Sister Teresa. Life is not fair.
Life is not fair, and it doesn't help to say that, and
Hmm.
and we just don't know what lies ahead of us,
Yeah.
and we don't know the stuff that we and sometimes I don't want to, and it's
Right.
about the stupidest things because they're things that I've not really been challenged by that other
Mhm.
people have. It's like, well, why them? I think we
Yeah.
often say that, it goes with it's not fair, the why me,
Yeah.
why not me? It's
Yes.
we live in a random universe, you know?
And to me, there's things that there are times when I haven't gotten certain opportunities, and I've coached people on this as well. You can wallow in it for a day, and then you have to figure out a way to let it go, because when you reflect back on it a week or two later, you realize, thank God it wasn't me that got that.
I know. And I think sometimes we look at things and this is the part this is another thing about social media that drives me nuts. We see people talking about things that they have. Maybe they have them, maybe they
Maybe
don't.
they
We
don't.
we
Yep.
really don't know. But and we have this envy or jealousy or why not me? And it's like, do you actually want that? Or
Hmm.
do you want that feeling or that portrayed
Hmm.
feeling of getting that,
Yep.
whatever that is for you?
Yep.
And we've just become so, the expression I love is compare and despair.
Mm.
Like, and we do a lot of that. Like, "Why don't I have that?" It's like, well, because you don't have, you don't have the hairdresser and the makeup person and 12 filters,
Yeah.
to make you look like that or,
Yeah.
the great Spanx, I need better Spanx.
So I know we're kind of getting a little bit close to time, and I just want to ask for one piece of advice something maybe that you do to really tune into your own mental health. So you're getting the education around it, but is there things that you would recommend to somebody else to really make sure that they're pouring into their own mental health?
Oh, man, there's so much, self-care. And when
Hmm.
I started the program, the first thing my advisor said is, "You really need to take care of yourself because there are no boundaries." And I think we live in an unboundaried world
Yes.
where we feel badly if we're not responding to that email that we got at 10 o'clock at night. It's like, that's not proper. That's not appropriate.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we don't have to answer it. I think that we feel this beck and call to, like, respond to everything. "Oh, here's a text. If I don't get back to them right away, they'll think that I'm avoiding them." Where did we get this feeling that we have to respond to everything in the moment?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think part of it is to be able to say, "Well, sometimes no." And that is a complete sentence. So I think
Yes.
that buys you a lot, or to be able to say, because and especially, I think we've spoken enough now that, what I know about you is you want to help.
Mhm.
And when we wanna help, it gives us a good feeling. It makes us feel like we have a sense of purpose in the world and we're doing something really good for humanity. And sometimes it's just good to take the pause and be able to say to someone, "Hey, thanks for letting me know. Can I get back to you about that?" And then getting
Mhm.
the time, because in the moment, we just wanna say yes. We wanna be a good girl. We wanna be a kind person, the good Samaritan, and do it.
Yeah.
But it's not always feasible, and afterwards, it's that, "Oh, I'm kicking myself because I would like to help. On the other hand, I don't wanna do that.
Mm.
That's not
Yeah.
something I chose." So I think a lot of it has to do with, what is it, that Shonda Rhimes book about the year of saying yes? I think you have to have a year of saying no, or
Yes.
or let me get back to you on that. So that's one way. Buy yourself some time so you're not always saying yes about things. But we also think about self-care as, it's not the spa. Let's face it. We're not spending days, at Canyon Ranch or any place like that. But,
Right.
what are just the little pieces of grace during the day? When I belonged to a really excellent yoga studio, it was like going to church. There
Mm.
was this sense that, oh, it's a little community and it's a place to just get away with thoughts. And I think that, I'm not particularly religious, but I think that prayer and meditation, is really underrated.
Mhm.
And it's something just to be able to, like, you can have just 5 minutes, and whatever it is that you say to yourself, even if you don't say anything, even if it's just enjoying the quiet or listening to a piece of music, like, whew, I think that goes so far in taking care of ourselves, and most people really get that too. And
Mhm.
the other piece is the clarity, and sometimes it's just being able to tell people instead of, my way is like getting really perturbed and, I don't know, all this frantic stuff, instead of saying, "You know what? I'm feeling like I'm a little overwhelmed right now." And sometimes it's just telling the truth. I'm overwhelmed, and
Yeah.
that's not a complaint, that's, transmitting a feeling, and most people can hear that and go, "Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this later." And I think that's a really good way to keep relationships intact too, is just not responding.
100%. Like, one of the best things that began doing a year or two ago was to actually communicate with my husband if I'm feeling overwhelmed. And I know that sounds so simple, but like, we both get overwhelmed in different ways. And now he can start seeing it. So now, like, this that evening, he's like, "What do you need me to do?" And before I would just be like, "I said, blah, 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 blah," right, and go through my list. And I was like, "Wait, this is what I was going to do. Oh, you don't want that? Cool. Then can you take care of dinner?" 100%. Awesome. Right? Like, but in the past, I would have held on to it. No, that's my role. It's my role in this house. And he's offering an olive branch of, "Let me help you. Let me serve you. Let me be your partner."
Yeah.
Cool. Then I'm going to do it. I don't care what choice you made, whatever. I don't know what just showed up at that door. Right? Like, I'm going to lean into that. It's important. That's probably one of the biggest mental health hacks for me, is to start actually communicating when I'm overwhelmed.
Do you think that there was a connection between your being able to be so direct with your husband and saying, "This is what I need now, thank you very much," and being able to say, "You know what? It is time to shift professionally." Are
Mm,
those 2 things connected?
I don't know. I do think that, when I made the move from, my prior company to where I am now, my husband and I really we spent a lot of time talking about it. It was not us split decision. It
Mm.
was, is this the right thing for us as a family? These are the pros, these are the cons. But what came with it was a lot of we both did a lot of reflection on it. Like I actually went and did a whole day of silence. I did a silent retreat, which I'd never done before, and I was terrified.
Yeah.
But I spent a majority of the day just thinking about this opportunity and is it the right opportunity? And then just listening. We'll go back to listening, right? Is I believe in God. Some people don't. I believe there is a God, and I believe like he and I had a conversation,
Mhm, mhm,
right? Like, and just from feeling the ground underneath you, and just listening to what
mhm.
your inner voice is saying. Especially as women, I feel like our inner voice is like so powerful, so powerful. And it's that opportunity to try to, I don't know, lean into it. But you're right. Like I think part of that was too because it became a partnership in that decision. It wasn't just
Mm.
my decision anymore. It was our decision.
That's really powerful too, I think family is so important,
Yeah.
and to be able to make these decisions together, not I can't see your husband saying, "No, you can't do this," but it is great to have the buy-in.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoever
Because
your partner is. I
support.
mean, it could be a spouse or, a life partner or whatever, but there's there's power in that unity.
Yeah.
Um So if people are inspired by what you said, they're like, "Man, I really want to learn more about Liz, and I want, I'd love to follow her journey as you go and you get this degree." Or they love your sound of your voice, and they want you to, to be the voiceover for something.
"Please come on down." Yeah.
Right? Like, is the best way to go to lizsolar.com, or is there another way for people to really connect with you?
No, that's a great way. I'm on LinkedIn, of course, under Liz Solar. Really, you can find me. I'll be hanging around the corner. I'll be
I
here
love
all
it.
night. Yeah, go to my website. That's the easiest way, I think. Uh,
Awesome.
yeah.
Now, I love to take, you saw my pen, I'm always writing notes. And so some
Yep.
of the things that I wrote down today in no particular order that resonated with me, I think are some of those golden nuggets that people can take with them right away is, everybody wants to be seen and heard, but we don't always reciprocate that to others. So don't gloss over others' ideas. Take the opportunity to listen to what they're saying, reflect it back, and it's amazing how that can help you. Connection and gratitude is being the commodity of the future. We talked about living in the now and how important it is, and it's so important to be grateful for the presence that you're in. When you start connecting with others, you get to find and meet people that aren't like you, and how important that is, either in your career as you want to grow your network, or in your personal life, or you want to learn about somebody who does a completely different type of job or business or whatever, have a different point of view politically or socially, whatever. There's an opportunity for learn and to create relationships that
Mhm.
might be actually really surprising and helpful. We talked about, you know, self care, and that the big thing for you was actually setting boundaries, but not only setting them, you have to keep them. If you don't keep them, they aren't really boundaries, they're just ideas. Um, and finding ways that you can continue to improve and find joy in what you're doing, and what you can control. If that can help bring you joy, that's fantastic. We talked a little bit about, as well, is that everything requires movement. If you're stuck in the static, then you're not going to be able to be resilient and open to change. We spent a lot of time talking about the capacity to have hope for growth actually helps you continue to grow and get you through what could be tough situations. And the last thing was, can you be comfortable? And that this might have been in the green room, but I'm going to say it because we can end with this. Can
Mm,
you be comfortable in the I don't know?
mhm.
And I think that also ties right back to mental health, is that when you can find yourself comfortable in the unknown, how powerful that really can be.
It sure is, because we live in a very random world, and you are excellent at this. I believe that you quoted me even more eloquently than I delivered it. So
Never.
brava to you.
Thank
That
you.
was no, the way you encapsulated it, excellent. I'm gonna be in a meeting with you anytime.
Awesome. I'm a great note taker.
You
Anybody wants to
really
sponsor me with a pen? This This has been so much fun. I was looking forward to it, and it just
Me
just
too.
totally beat my expectations. Liz, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, Mariana, thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Let's keep this going.
Thank you for tuning into Might in Motion. If you learned something about motivation, momentum, mindfulness, or might, please like, comment, and share. Thank you.